Then you took the wrong door, honey. We all miss the door.
That was last hour.
Long hour late.
Okay, welcome everybody out. We're going to start this meeting on doing a work meeting. We'll be working on 825 as we have been concerning small business, home occupation. Last time we went through John's, we had it up on the board for those of you that was here. We went through what John had. I think we made it to item number 2 on that one. So this time Brent's put quite a bit of work into this one that he's ran off. So what we'd like to do is go through it and we'll just kind of redline. He's passed out some pens and things, and thanks to all your hard work, Brent.
Anybody got a pen and an opinion?
These are not constituted gifts.
That's what I
You're
get.
not being influenced.
He wants them back.
He wants back. Excellent.
He
Excellent.
wants them back because he knows this isn't the only meeting.
And if he leaves them with us, we'll forgive him.
Yeah.
So let's just jump right in. Did anybody have a chance to go through John's? Is there any comments on the last one we did? The last, before we move on to this and see what it looks like? Okay, so we have the joint, we're meeting joint, we got the mayor and council along with the planning commission here, so it's a joint work meeting. So all of your tax dollars are at work. This is it. This is it. Okay, let's go ahead and get right into it. Brent, do you want to lead that?
Sure, I'd love to. So, let's start with purpose and definition. First of all, I want to hit a few points here that I think that this part, anytime that we have an application for the home occupation permit business, like, I think it has to go to the planning commission first. I understand that we don't do that, is that correct?
That's correct.
I think it needs to go to the planning commission first and go through all the details that need to be figured out before it ends up on their desk.
Okay, so is
And I don't
that,
know if that needs to be part of this or not. I didn't include that in this draft.
okay, so it's not included in this.
It's
draft.
not included in this draft, because I didn't understand that. I can't believe you guys don't have, that should be the first stop, is right here, in my opinion. So, I mean, this is where the codes all come together, so. Anyway, so the purpose,
Does anybody else have an opinion on that?
so the purpose of this chapter, the definition of home occupation and business shall be as follows. No business shall be allowed which is not legal in the state of Utah. Now, a lot of this I just plagiarized out of our existing code. So a lot of this is going to be exactly what it used to say, so. The purpose of this chapter is to provide an opportunity for homeowners to operate a small business within the operator's residence and the property boundaries. Any home occupation shall not change the character of the home or the neighborhood. The business will coexist with the existing uses without creating a conflict of interest. Now, what I'd like to do is the red pens, just write down whatever you're thinking, and then I think we can all address it and try and make some progress with some. So the approval period, now this one, a home occupation permit shall be issued by the planning staff for a 2-year period, only after the home occupation has been determined to meet the requirements of this chapter. Existing permits shall be renewed when applied for. Zoning changes shall not infringe on existing uses. When the use is allowed to lapse by the property owner, the zoning or use can change.
Okay.
So we talked about that, Tom. I know you had some questions and issues. And I explained how I had been zoned out of another area. So.
Brent, do you have one more copy before we move on?
I do. Oh, what do you see here?
Right into it.
My point about that, Brent, was that zoning can change. I think that's a little ambiguous.
Okay.
In order to say what you want it to do, I think we need to spell that out just a little bit differently. Because saying the zoning can change means, well, gosh, that's been RA5, let's turn it into a C1.
Exactly.
I think that we
And that's
need
what I
to-
think, that's what we need to do is flesh that out, so.
Spell that out
if
just a
you
little
could-
bit.
if- I mean, I tried to leave room so you could put what you're thinking works there, however you would wanna modify that. But my concern is that we let somebody do this and we get people in and they've been doing it. For instance, I've had a business in Daniel since '85. And when things change, a lot of times, I'm not gonna tell you the story about my goats again, but it was heartbreaking. So, anyway, so it's just something that if you're there, then you gotta be able to compete, once you let your use lapse, then it's really change to whatever it needs to change to.
Well, are we talking zoning changes like a change? That, where it was RA5 and it's been changed to something?
Well, I'm just saying, I think we need to change that from zoning change to maybe use.
Okay, I could go for that.
I
Even
think
the
that's where you're
original
going,
use.
right?
Because I don't know that zoning
Yeah, it's
changes.
not zoning, it's not
Yeah,
zoning,
yeah.
it's a use, so.
And we have other code that speaks to that, as long as the use has been,
Then maintain, right?
yeah, for the,
Did you want to go through, each paragraph and then kind of, as you mentioned, highlight it or go through?
Yeah, we
and
can
then
highlight
just-
it as we go and then
Okay.
make some notes, and then we'll all talk. So the application, I know that we talked about this before, applications for a home occupation permit shall be made to the planning staff. The applicant shall provide all information requested by the planning staff. If the applicant is a renewal and no changes have occurred, and there have been no signed complaints made against the applicant shall be renewed. The application review items will be as follows. Home occupation shall not alter the residential character or premise or unreasonably disturb the peace and quiet of the neighborhood. This includes radio and television reception of the neighboring property, nor detract from the residential character of the neighborhood. Home occupation businesses will be allowed only for homeowners living on the premises. Vehicles left running or coming and going during off hours, which would have to be determined, by the way, I haven't addressed that, would be an example of disturbing the peace and quiet. I listened to you guys talk about that, and nobody wants that. So that has to be something that's addressed in the application period. Because once people get in and get started, they're gonna feel proprietary about their use and function. So it has to be addressed through the planning process when they first get their license. Home occupation shall be in complete conformity with this title, fire, building, plumbing, electrical, health, and all other applicable state and municipal ordinances. Home occupation shall not cause a demand for the town of Daniel for utility services or community facilities in excess of those usually and customarily provided for residential uses. Each home occupation license shall be considered on its own merits and shall constitute an individual agreement between the business and the town. The agreement does not indicate approval of a given use at any other location. Each license is to be considered individually. In other words, what's going to work at one residence is not going to work down next to the transfer station. And that's why we got to go to planning. That's going to be you guys who decide. The applicant shall provide a description of the proposed use, including but not limited to the location of the use, type of business, and work performed at the location. There's a lot of businesses, mine for instance, where there's no work performed at the location. A site plan shall be provided to the planning staff to determine the yard requirements, including availability of parking space, availability of the parking space to service the proposed use, ingress and egress. Ingress and egress. And then the next one is the name, address, and phone number of the property owner applicant, because they have to be the same, shall be provided to the town of Daniel for compliance. All applicants are required to provide daily business hours, the number of employees at the home occupation location, and expected customer traffic. Applicants are to provide photos and quantities of vehicles to be parked or stored at the site location. That would include private vehicles, that won't include company vehicles. Application agreement. The applicant agrees to maintain and abide by the approved application uses. So this is what he agreed, they agreed when they met with you. Any increase or failure to abide by these rules will be grounds for loss of the business license. Any home occupation shall not restrict residential traffic. And requirement 8, this is just a note, is to provide you guys, this is a subjective process for you guys to filter out what's going to be offensive to the neighborhood. And that's I think that's the only way this is going to work long term, is if you guys get information and know what's going in. The application for the home occupation permit shall be attached and constitute approval of the Daniel Township business license. Now, we're not township anymore, but we'll have to change that. Which would be issued at the same time. We have to have both, don't we?
Well, one is,
Is it the same thing?
my understanding is it is.
So we
yes.
need to modify that. I didn't know. So next is biannual review and review of business licenses and home occupation permits. Home occupation permit / business license location may be inspected prior to renewal to assure compliance with this chapter. If signed complaints have been received, the business license and home occupation permit is subject to review according to 82503, which we just read. In other words, they've already told you what they're gonna do and what you approve. So if there's been a complaint, you would look at what they said. You should have all the information that they told you they were gonna do. If they changed that, or modified it, increased it, then it could be subject to, and maybe revoked. The review after a complaint, which I didn't write in there, but we're continuing here. The review according to 82503-8 will be by 4 anonymous volunteer citizens appointed at the request of the mayor, 2 of which will be home occupation permit holders, and 2 citizens at large. The review conclusions will be provided to the mayor to determine the resolution. And then so the home occupation standards, this is a lot of standard stuff here. Before a business license shall be issued for a home occupation, the following must be shown. Home occupation may be permitted in RA5, and I think this is straight out of the old text. The home occupation is conducted entirely within the residential dwelling and property. The home occupation uses accessory building and yard space consistent with private homeowners elsewhere in Daniel Township. So we're trying not to look any different than anybody else. Is the goal there. Vehicles comparable to personal vehicles stored or parked in Daniel Town will be allowed. The home occupation is clearly incidental and secondary to the use of the dwelling for dwelling purposes and does not change the character of the building from that of the dwelling. Signs are going to, and the signs is just the same as we had before. So we go to G, not more than the equivalent of 15, let's see, that should be 25%. 25% of the ground floor area of the dwelling is devoted to the home occupation. When necessary, the home occupation shall be registered with the applicable state license division or department. I have to have a state contractor license, for instance. Entrance to the home occupation from the outside shall be by the same entrances only used by the homeowner's family. And that's what I can know.
Okay, does anybody, anybody want to start? Did anybody make any notes?
Okay, Brett, so after going through this, and it was similar to the one I went through, but I didn't have the exact one, but it's pretty close. I don't see any parameters in here as far as types of business. We talk about boundaries, but it doesn't talk about how much can be on the boundary. It just talks about the premise, but is it the whole premise that could be a part of the business? And so I'm not seeing a whole lot of boundaries as far as you know, we talk about vehicles, any vehicle like your standard vehicle, but then 20 vehicles can just pull in there. So those are parameters
Well,
I'm
and that's,
referring to.
I think it needs to be a subjective process. And I think that it falls on these guys to ask that, but the question that you're asking should go to everybody who applies for a permit. How many vehicles are you gonna have? What kind of vehicles are they gonna be? Bring us a photo of the vehicles. You're gonna have 3 of these, you're gonna have 1 of these. Are they all day? What are your hours? This becomes a contract between me and you and the town. This is what we're gonna live with.
So how would we keep, and this is a question, because you've already thought of it, how would we keep consistency when this board changes? Because
Now say that again.
how do we keep consistency when this board changes? Because they get the subject, if we're going along, they're
Okay.
subjectively taking applications and seeing what best works. But maybe when that board changes, that view changes because that board changes, and so thereby,
Well, I think it has to change. I mean, the town's gonna change. We're gonna have new neighbors, we're gonna have John Blotter who's not happy. We're not gonna okay things next to John Blotter. I mean, we're just asking for trouble. I mean, there's gonna be so much that we can do, and as long as we're all, I mean, we're just trying to make our town stay the way it is and still move forward.
and I do believe that what you just said is everyone's goal, and that's what's so hard because we're all doing it. At least that's my goal. I'll speak for myself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna upset anybody here, I really don't. But I also I've thought a lot about what John, I wanted John to be here. But I thought a lot about what John said about how his neighbors have reduced the value of his property, and I disagree with that wholeheartedly. Because any homeowner can have, there's nothing that says a homeowner can't have 2 trucks, a cat, a bobcat, 3 bobcats, 4 bobcats. This is not a subdivision. These people can have whatever, any homeowner can have what they want, and I'm all for that. I've never had a problem with anybody in this town. And I like my yard the way I like my yard, which seems clean to me, but I know everybody has their own opinion. So I think it's more, each application has to be an individual and has to be approved individually. So that's why I don't have any barriers.
Can I speak to the consistency on that?
Yeah.
Because you said they need to provide pictures, they need to have all that information.
When they apply.
So once it's a contract between the
Okay.
board and the person who applied, the new board needs to honor that,
Well,
correct?
yeah, it's existing.
So there's your consistency.
It's existing at that point, yeah.
On something
Okay.
that's continuing. Now, something coming in new,
Something coming
It
in
may
new may not
fluctuate
get
with
the.
the board.
That's what I'm saying, it can't be the same because the town is growing all the time. It's gonna be changing. And I think that at some point, we're gonna have, let's face it, I mean, John and I talked at the last meeting we were at together, and it's all gonna be commercial on board at some point in time. We know that. All we can do is slow it down. But it's all gonna be commercial because that's the way it's gonna grow. But, so I think.
Wait a minute, I don't understand what you just said. It's all
I'm just
good.
saying that the town is changing continually.
Are you saying the whole town will be commercial?
No, no,
No, Highway 40.
The 40 board.
Okay, I missed that, thank
Where,
you.
where these guys are trying to get commercial zoning, which just goes along with the use that they've had, that's been there. So, I mean, I'm just saying that we need to look at every application individually. And it needs to be the responsibility of the planning commission to say, we're not gonna let that happen, or I don't think that's a big deal. That's what I say. I mean, we're all gonna live around each other, and we don't wanna beat each other's throats, so.
I like your start, it's a good start, a lot of energy put into it, I can see that. I do believe we need to have a few more guidelines, and the reason is every board's gonna change. And so let's just say, we're very conservative and we want very minimum things. You apply, we say, oh, no. But the next says, oh yeah, let's just let it be a free-for-all. So then we've got all kinds of stuff going on. So if you put a little more firm boundaries in there, we won't have that between different boards.
That's why the red pens are here. I mean, that's what I wanna hear. I mean, I gotta be honest with you, I'm not big on boundaries.
No. I got that.
But I know there's a lot of people who are. Yeah, you can tell, right?
We gotta get a middle of the road though, so that's what we're trying to do, middle of the road.
Yeah.
Because
And I
all of us
agree,
want the same
That's why we're all
goals.
in this room together. I mean, we all gotta live together, so.
True, but we're a very small group here compared to all the people in the town. And we're
That's
trying to
true, but we all
represent
talk to
everybody.
people, we all talk to people, we've all heard opinions at this point.
Yeah.
This is not a secret.
Mhm.
So we all know what our neighbors want and what us business people need to survive, so. I mean, that's why we're having this discussion.
That's right.
I think your input is, you guys are the planning commission. That's where this has gotta go to, in my mind. I think it's a mistake to send it to them until you guys have gone through it and said, they got enough room for parking, they got enough room for this, they got enough, we've already reviewed all that. This looks like it'll work, send it to those guys.
And I think, for clarity, if that process is happening, it just isn't happening at this board, but the process is happening through you and Ryan, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we go through it if whatever, so those questions obviously come
And I
up here.
understand what
now.
Brent's saying, I just want everyone to understand that that process
But it
is
is
happening,
working
but it's just,
now.
it's just
But he
not.
wants it to come before the planning commission, which is, I think it's a great plan. And we send it to you guys with a recommendation.
And I'm not disputing either way, I just wanted everyone to
Yeah.
understand, the process is just an option.
Now, one thing that we didn't, you'll notice in there that I put a 2-year period.
Versus it was a 1.
Right. And I would love to have a discussion about anybody who thinks we should do twice as much work for the same amount of money. Because if there hasn't been a complaint, all we're doing is wasting his time and your time.
Well, and I would have to say that the current review process that we have may not be what needs to happen has not been happening, because we do have a code, and we do have a number of businesses who do not meet the code, which is why this whole thing came up.
Right.
So we're looking for a code that can be enforced, so that it's not just up to Eric to say, you can't do that, and they say, well, why? Well, because I don't want you to. See what I'm saying? So we have to have something, it has to be, well, you're using more than 50% of your property for this business.
That's true.
That
Yeah, I
kind of
mean,
thing.
this
So
is tough.
that's-
I've got a business in the county as well, and I mean, the meetings with planning almost never end. But the truth is, as long as there's not a complaint, everything's fine. That seems to be the way it operates in the county as well as here. As long as we don't, I mean, obviously, you don't want somebody next to your house doing what they were doing, showing up at 5 in the morning and waking you up, running trucks. I mean, we can't have that in a home occupation.
Right.
So all I'm saying is when the application comes to you, that's the time to make all that known. If we just give out applications and it looks like I've been doing this for 35 years, and it looks like all these other guys have been doing this for 35 years, that means it's okay. That's the impression they get when they drive through town. When they come to you, you've got to explain that this is not how it is. Every application is an individual process, and it's a contract with the town. And I think that's the only way we can move forward with.
And I agree, but I do agree with the mayor as well, that there have to be some things that are not negotiable, there have to be some things that are not flexible.
And that's
But we
the
can't just say,
beauty of
okay,
the
well, that's
red
good for
pen.
you. I agree. That's, I think, but I
Yeah, and I
think it
think
needs to
you,
be.
and that's where I
Otherwise, I
want you-
really like this, I think this
Good
is.
start.
Yeah, this is great, this is good framework, it's good, we just need to put in some parameters.
I mean, we've got a
So
lot of
we've
people
got
who've had
something to
businesses for a
enforce.
lot of years, and nobody's ever complained once.
But that's why we're in this process, is because now people are.
Our complaint.
Yeah,
So that's why this all came up. It's just not you come
People
up.
are not, because it began to expand. People began to outgrow what
exactly.
you have.
exactly,
And so
yeah.
they came in and says, well, if he does that, I can do this. And
That's-
now we're at the point
Yeah.
where, no, you can't do that. And so
Okay.
we need to be able to say why.
And that's it, and that's where we need input. Everybody here has neighbors that they've talked to, heard from, and, I mean, me listening to you was what started me on this. So, I mean, you shouldn't have to go through that.
No, nobody should.
Nobody should. Nobody should. And at the same time, if you've got a business next to you and they never bother you and they plow your driveway like I plow all my neighbors, then, we get along fine. That's what I'm trying to do, is make it so we're all can get along. That's all I'm trying to do.
It'll be good.
I've got a question.
John?
So how does this pertain to the guys that are working from their house, whether they supplies but they don't do business there, they just They have their truck, they have their trailer,
Okay,
odds and ends, and they go somewhere
For
else.
instance, my business, I have 5 employees. Every one of those guys has a truck that you've never seen at my house. Oh, you did when I first bought it. I was driving around for a day to see what it was. But that being said, the point is my business is mostly about paperwork and bidding jobs, and I bring material in and out, and that's about it. So I'm not sure if that's what you're getting at.
Because that's not basically a home occupation, it's just, you're going out where home
Well,
occupation.
that's where all the
is doing
computers
business.
are, and that's where all the paperwork, that's where the
Yeah,
invoices go.
maybe the office is
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So,
And believe it or not, the government lets me deduct that.
that's good, I hope so. So, do people have to, that have such a things, do they need, other than they've got a license from the state to do? Or do they need anything else?
I mean,
Intrusive or
I
something?
think when they come before the planning commission, the question that you're asking is gonna be, that's what's gonna happen in that venue. They're gonna come in there and they're gonna say, I wanna do the following things. And obviously, most of them are gonna involve the same as me, they're gonna have paperwork. And then they're gonna have some sort of business transaction that's taking place there. I mean, we're not gonna want the landscapers going next to her house and starting up with 10 trucks in the morning and letting them run. That's what we're trying to prevent. So you're gonna address that one individually and say, that use isn't gonna fly here. That's not gonna happen. How many people are gonna be here in the morning? How many people report here for work? Are you gonna have 10 people?
Yeah, I'm talking about a single person that's working out of their house as far
Like a
as.
CPA or something, or?
Well,
Massage
CPI,
therapist,
well, no, your electricians, your carpenters, your plumbers, and they go from there. They go out, you know,
Well, I think that's the ideal use for this home occupation. I mean, I never
so we
work at
want
my
to call,
house.
so we still want to call that a home
Brent?
occupation,
Yeah.
yeah?
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Do we want to call that a home occupation then?
Are you saying that I don't need a home occupation permit? Are you questioning that?
I'm questioning, okay, so
Because I've wondered that
do
too.
they
but-
need a home occupation
Okay, well,
license?
here's the
Is it
deal.
considered a home
When I
occupation?
work in Salt Lake City, for instance, when I do work in Salt Lake City, I have to have a business license somewhere. The first question they
Yes.
ask me is, where is your,
License from?
well, no, they ask me if I have a business license, and where is it? And I have to put down the license number and move forward. If I don't have one, then I have to buy one in the city where we're working. So it's obviously better to have it at the town where all the paperwork is. In fact, it's so confusing because Wasatch County had me buying licenses from Eric for my RV park in the county, because that's where we do paper. That was their criteria. And they did that until they realized that now they don't have any right to inspect. So, I mean, it's always in a state of flux. We're always moving one direction or another. So, but I think that from a convenience standpoint, I want the license at my house because that's where all the paperwork is. I don't have an office anywhere else. I don't know that we need one. Most jurisdictions don't require a business license. They're just the bigger ones. I know that Provo does, I know Orem does.
Yeah, that's my question. Does that person that's just a one-man operation, you know, and he's,
I would say, I mean, I told you, I'm not in the boundaries. I would say no.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is they shouldn't really need one.
Let's see, who else
Kim, you had something? Add to that?
That's really.
Yeah, I'm just gonna ask Brent a question.
Okay.
Said it wasn't that bad.
You've been running your business for many years in Dayton.
Right.
But where is your shop? Where do your guys show up? Where's all your vehicles?
I don't want all that at my house.
Where is it?
And I'm a contractor. So I have jobs and everything stays on jobs. I give all my guys a truck, they drive it home. So everybody takes a truck home.
So you're very low impact for the town,
Right, right.
and nobody has complained.
Nobody is complaining.
The problem the town faces right now, I mean, years ago, you had dairies around here and everybody would smell manure and you'd have chickens crowing in the morning, all that kind of
I grew
stuff.
up around that.
And it's, you know, it's changed a little bit. Now you've got residential people. It's really designed right now so that you have residential living. And what's happening is we're having lots of people show up that can't afford to buy commercial work in town or somewhere else, and they buy a house out here, and the next thing you know, they set shop up. They have 10 employees show up.
Exactly,
And that's where we're trying to get, because we don't want that to take place, because the people in the town don't want that to take place.
I agree.
If the people in the town are saying, you know what, it's not a bad idea if we convert this whole town into a commercial zone. That's not a bad idea. We'll keep it at 5 acres, but everybody can have a commercial over here, and that's what we're gonna do with it. And if, you know, some people don't like that, they can sell their property out for a lot more money, go someplace where it's more residential, and then we'll have another commercial come in. But that's the whole point of zoning. If this board could say, okay, let's clear everybody out of town, and then we're gonna put the commercial here, the residential here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you have to try to design this as it happens, just like you're
Exactly.
saying. But I have problems with really trying to get down to actual detail in a lot of this stuff. It's not easy, because the first thing I think of is the guy that I'm trying to regulate and deal with right now, his profession, he's an attorney. And so I have to think like an attorney, and I have to get the town to realize that we have to step into this as lightly as we can. But, you know, phrasing like any home occupation shall not change the character of a home or a neighborhood. Now let's talk about the definition of a character. You know, here we go.
Well, that's it exactly.
So the thing that brought this all about, and we've been talking about it now for a good 9 months to a year.
Yeah,
But really, it just has to do with all of this commercial that's moving in. And how are we gonna slow it down? I mean, I don't have any problem with your business. I don't know how anybody else feels, but you have very little impact. But there's people in town here that all of a sudden they show up and they've got impact that is just tremendous. We've decided we're gonna put commercial growth, or we looked at enterprise zones and commercial zones along highways. Well, that makes sense. But, you know, we don't even want to put a 7-Eleven down on where we have a crossroad. We don't want that. I don't think we do. But this isn't an easy subject, and not
No,
only
it's not.
that,
There's nothing
while
easy
we're
about it.
talking about it, it keeps magnifying and magnifying. And yet it is very tough to tackle. So my whole idea is to simplify this as much as we can and keep a standard that this board up here doesn't want to make decisions and then bring somebody else in based on certain criteria, bring someone else in and change that criteria to fit their situation. We've got to be real careful that we can streamline this and simplify it as much as possible. I mean, I put a thing together here about 6 months ago, and it says if you have more than 4 employees, more than 4
Right,
vehicles,
right.
for this, for that, if your house space takes up this much in business based upon your acreage. Here we go, trying to simplify it as much as possible. It's tough.
I think we have to put Kim's in there, and one of the reasons that I think we have to have hard numbers is because of what happens in small towns when leadership changes. Then we end up with kind of the attitude of some cultures where, well, what could I do, it's my cousin. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah,
And so if they come to us and say, well, you know, I had to, it's my mother's brother's kid, you know, and so we have to be able to say, sorry, Bubba,
That's true,
but you've
that's
got
true.
10 trucks and
Are we
you
in a
want to build.
position, let's just be honest about it, we can't dictate what a private owner can own. Is that not true? Am I wrong about that?
We can dictate.
I can buy a 1.5 deuce and fix it up to pull my RV, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and I know there's one guy in town who's got a can work, that he told us. I mean, I'm just saying that we're not in the subdivision, we don't have covenants.
Well, I need to make a comment here too.
Okay?
I am completely in agreement with all the comments that have been made so far. However, every coin has two sides to it. The other side of this coin that nobody seems to be talking about is almost without exception, there may be 2 or 3 in this room right now. Most of us have moved in after the fact and have not been here for the 35 years. And there are legitimate operations that have gone on and traditionally were going on in Daniel before the town was formed. And I think we need to be very careful not to step on the toes of those people who have operated a business. You're just an example of what you've just said. I'm not pointing to you to single you out, but there are lots of individuals who have had trucks, have had businesses, have done farming and milking and masonry work, and nobody's complained about them. And I think we need to be really careful not to zone those businesses and people and individuals out of existence. I think that that's the easiest thing for a town to do. It's been mentioned several different times. Well, gosh, we only have 3 entrances to Daniel. Okay, well, the simplest thing to do is to put up a gate and a guardhouse at all 3 of those entrances and now come up with all sorts of homeowner agreements and nobody comes in with anything. I think most people, and again, not to point out, but I think you were one, you've been another, McAllister's or myself. I don't like people telling me, you can do this, you can't do that, you have to do this, you have to do that, and if not, you're gonna get a fine, and if you get a fine and you don't respond to it, you're gonna be ousted out of the whole neighborhood. I think we need to be very careful about that. And I don't know if anybody else agrees with me.
But I agree with you. I mean, that's why I made the comment about the proprietary feelings that people get after doing something for so long. It seems like I've always been there and I've always done it, but, and I don't want, obviously, I don't want to be next to the neighbors that she has.
I don't think that we can deal with, I've always been there and I've always done it. I kick people out of my backyard all the time. Say, oh, I've trespassed and hunted and been through this property ever since I was 12 years old. Well, okay, maybe, but today it's my property and I don't want you back here. And people get all offended at that. At the same time, I don't think that we need to have people who are starting trucks in the morning and doing all sorts of those kind of things. But the easiest thing in the world to do is to set the limits so tight that nobody can do anything. And that's not what this area is. On one side of the coin, yeah, we've got people coming in looking at it. The reason why they're looking at doing it is because we require 5 acres out here. If we require 5 acres, very few people can make a living agriculturally with 5 acres. Most people that are looking for 5 acres is because they've got things that are in the way elsewhere and they want some space. And they look at this and say, well, we've got to have 5 acres out here. If I got 5 acres, I could park this, I could put that, I could do this. And if we continue to insist on the 5 acres, we need to acknowledge that that's what's going to attract. I think that some common sense needs to come into play, and I don't think that it needs to be regulated down to, you can't have anything beyond, you know, the ground floor in your house, and that's only 10%, 25%, whatever we say. I think that what we need to do is be very aware and conscious of good, honest, hard-working people who are just trying to make a living. And then, when it becomes complaint-driven, or nuisance-oriented, or sound or noise, or where it's coming to be, okay, if somebody's there minding their own business and nobody's complaining about them, why go after them? But if they're there and they're even minuscule and they're tiny, but they're doing stuff at 2 in the morning, those are the people we need to go and
That's how I agree with everything you just said.
I hope I haven't offended anybody.
That's what I was trying to.
It's not my intention to offend anybody, but I think we could get carried away overboard to the point where we put the 3 entrances as guardhouse entrances, and you've got to have a darn good reason to get into this town or you're not coming in.
Shelley?
I really appreciate what you're saying, because you guys came up with a purpose. You saw what was needed. You saw that there's people in here that's the town that is working. they have businesses. And there's some people that said, that's gonna say when they was doing it with the county, they was illegal too, but the county wasn't doing nothing about it. It doesn't matter if it was legal, you know, it was, these people are here, like you said, they bought property, assuming they can do what they wanted. They have their acreage, they come out to get acreage because they don't want neighbors every quarter an acre. You know, there's a reason they come out here. But that your purpose was, you found this need. We've got to fix it, we find this need, we got these. How do we accommodate this group of people without shutting them down? And like you said, making all these CCNRs in our town. If we wanted to do that, why did we become a town? Heber was coming on in and look at all, they got their nuisance officer, they got their thing. They're shutting people down left and right. I'm surprised that, I mean, there's people, I talked to one of the council members, he said there's people there every council meeting screaming, how dare you guys think you can control my yard? You tell me what I can have, what I can't have, how many, anything I can have. You know, people don't want, we don't want that. But just, you know, and this, I think, is, you know, it is complaint driven. It needs to be. But honestly, Eric's gone out, I know, on any complaint. I would say he hasn't had more, I'm probably wrong, than 5 written complaints, if he even had that. So this is coming together saying it was all complaint driven. It's not. It's because there were some people out there that's saying, I don't like this. I don't want this. And they come to the meetings and they're saying, I don't want this. That's why this is happening.
But
It's
the
not
thing-
the
my
people,
point-
it's not all the workers.
My point about the things that people are saying they don't want are things that have traditionally been
Exactly.
here. Now, maybe we're getting more of them, and maybe
Exactly.
it is getting out of hand. I don't disagree with that we need to do something to keep that from happening. But it isn't like this is pristine area that has never had
Exactly.
this kind of activity in it. It's
That is
not
correct.
pristine, it's been here. Myself personally, I've seen the Heber Valley, been here since 1970. I wish I could say I was born and raised, went to high school here, but that's not true. I came here because of the community and what it offered, and I didn't like neighbors that were only 6 feet away from me down in the city.
Yeah. And I do believe we need codes. We do need codes, we need some regulations. But I don't think we need to have honest people that are come out here and working. They're trying to make a living. They're trying to support their families. And that's what you guys saw the need. So that's what your purpose was. I saw this need, how do we fix it? Well, we see one code that the fixing is gone. Just shut them all down, we're done. And then we have another code that's, well, here's, you know, yeah, okay, sure, it needs some perimeters. Let's get some perimeters. That's what he gave you all these red things for. Let's put in input. We've got business owners here. What do you guys, you know, he's done a hard work at, and I think you've done a great job. And you guys, I'd hate to have your job. You're doing an awesome job, though.
We have the purpose somewhere.
Yeah, you just
I mean, we
gotta,
spend a lot of time on that.
It's on
It's
that
on the
very first
front page
page.
of his handout.
All the purpose.
Was that the
Purpose
purpose
and
we
definition.
came up with?
That was the most recent.
I don't know. Look, it's Kim, right? I don't know how to do what you want to do, quite honestly.
Pardon me?
I'm not sure how to do what you were recommending. In other words, if we're gonna draw a line in the sand, that everybody has to adhere to, that will be excellent for enforcement. And it will still be complaint driven, would you agree? But then we're gonna find, when we start reading the fine print, I mean, I looked at John Blotters, and I realized that I own 3 mini X's, and I actually use them. One of them is just to clean stalls, but I can't have one if I have a business license. Obviously, I could have one if I didn't have a business license, but that doesn't make any sense to me. So it seems to me that I don't know how you're gonna do this with our existing uses, like Thomas pointed out, and if it's not a subjective process, I don't know how you're going to.
I think you have to start simple, and then I think you have to build on that. You have to take the experience that comes in here each month and deal with it and maybe adjust code. I'm looking out through the congregation here, and I can see quite a few business owners. You guys know if you're a nuisance to your neighbor. You guys know if you came out here because that's cheaper than coming to Heber City or Salt Lake. You guys know if you really are a good fit for this town or not.
And I would
Now-
say- I would
now-
say that-
now-
I would respond to that and say that I was. I don't know that I still am.
How many years you got here, Brent?
1983.
Okay.
If I could just finish, these business owners are gonna say, oh, well, no, I'm really not a fit for this because I got all these trucks showing up in the morning. I got all these employees. And not only that, I've got a few customers coming in once in a while. They know their business, they know what's going on, they know what their needs are. Now, the question I ask them is how can we work this out? How can you get what you want? How can we get what we want? And it has to be through enforcement too, by
It
the
has to be.
way. It's right up there at the top. But there isn't one business owner in here. He'll tell you, get him in on the private sector, he'll tell you whether he's a fit for this town or whether he's not. So how do we make that work, or what do we do? We have to do it with code. And probably develop that code as we go along. But I think the simpler, the better to start with.
Have you considered, you know, it's 5 acres per house, right, or per lot. Have you considered a certain number of cars and employees per acre? I mean, your idea I thought was really good to say you can't have more than 4, you can't have more than something else. But I like the idea that you had, which was, if I'm buying this property, I want to be able to use it kind of the way that I want. But at the same time, you don't want to buy 800 cars and stick it on your 5 acres just because they fit. You know, that's not what anybody wants to do. I want to bring the car collection. But if you have 1.2 employees per acre and something like that. Does this paper just say shut up? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
That's
You don't have to read it.
If it does, it'll be on
Do
the
you
first one.
want me to hold that?
Oh, good, okay, it just says shut up, all right, go ahead.
No, finish your thought, that's just there for you to review at your community.
The idea is, we just moved here from Irvine, California, do you guys know where that is?
Yeah.
If I stuck my tongue out of my window, it lapped over my neighbor's fence. And it was so regulated. Everything was beige, everything was, I was just horrible. And we wanted to come someplace where that wasn't the case.
Exactly.
You know, we grew up kind of around here, we've been here for a long time, but not here in Daniel. You know, my ancestors didn't settle Daniel, but we came here for a specific reason. I don't want to put 800 cars on my property. I don't want to have my next door neighbor do it either. But at the same time, I have 11 acres or whatever it is. If I want to do something with 3, 4, 5 employees, I want to be able to, you know, you want to be able to have a life. You want to be able to have a basic home-based business. I don't know that you want a truck stop, but you want to be able to enjoy your property. And so sometimes, you know, my concern with both complaint-based and we'll see what's reasonable, I've seen what's reasonable interpreted in just the most ridiculous ways. And so it's just better, in my opinion, if there's a tiny framework around what's reasonable so that it gives everybody a little bit of a guideline. Not necessarily a, oh my gosh, you have 1 extra employee so we're going to crucify you. But just a little leeway and a little breathing room, but still give them a lot of freedom.
Can I ask you what your name is?
No, not if you're going to say anything bad to me. They already told me to shut up. David McCombs.
Gary, you had something?
I was just saying, we do have code that says how many animals per acre you can have, and I'm not sure how effective that is, whether that would work with cars. It's not working with animals. But I think we've got a delicate balance, and we enjoy the 5 acres. I mean, I live out here because I have space. The minute it becomes where it's not fun to live out here anymore, my best thing to do would be push for quarter-acre lots, and I think we're one mayor and council away from that if we're not careful. That could happen very easily. And so we need to make sure that quality of life and lifestyle stays the way we want it. And I think you have to be careful with what we do business-wise and, you know, what the purpose is. And that's really the purpose of zoning to start with, is to keep residential and business in compatible areas. And so I see us, if we're not careful, we're going to dilute the zoning. We might as well not have any zoning at that point. And everybody does what they want to on their property. And in an ideal world, we all think that we have those rights, but we don't, because of zoning laws, because of building laws, because of this, because of this. So, anyway.
How are we gonna pay for all of the infrastructure if we go to quarter-acre lots, the sewer, the sidewalks, all of that?
That's a good question, but I've seen other towns have the same issue.
Developers pay for it.
Yep.
Pardon me?
The developers pay for it when they change it and upgrade it.
Oh,
This, we're getting off the subject.
Well, that was what I was gonna say, is that it seems like whenever we get talking about this, we kind of mix small, or home occupation with zoning. Now, what are we talking about in this meeting? Is it zoning?
Yes.
Or is it home occupation businesses?
Which is usage within the
It's
zone.
all zoning.
I don't see in any of the proposals.
Yeah, we're not changing zoning.
Yeah, I don't see that.
Still RA5.
And so,
Right.
like for you say, Tom, I came here because I want to be able to say, run a business, do this. A lot of other people came here because they wanted the residential character, they wanted the land, they looked at the zoning, they said, this is what's allowed. That's why I'm here. Now we're changing what's allowed. So I think there are people with both sets of opinions, and I think you have to recognize that. But the thing is what is it now, and what do we want it to be? It's a hard question.
It is.
Because what do we want it to be?
The other thing I see is what worked 20, 30 years ago when there were half as many people out here. It doesn't work when you're completely built out and every 5 acres has somebody on it. Some, you know, some business, some house, some barn with, you know, 800, our 800's our number tonight, 800 horses on it. So I kind of see that we do, and I agree with you, I want to be able to do what I want to do on my property, and I don't want my neighbor to do what I don't want him to do.
And I want to be the last one here.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm almost with Tom's Gates, if you know. So it's kind of that attitude that, you know, not in my backyard, which creates a lot of problems like you find in major urban areas. But we do have to have some sort of control so that those of us who live here and who enjoy what we do here do not end up in, have any of you ever heard of Chesterfield? Chesterfield, a delightful little small town. Well, this Chesterfield is located where all the oil refineries are now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Or
down there in
Salt
Salt Lake, nice little town. If you go drive through there, you'll still see some of the little houses that weren't paying attention and got gobbled up and built on. So you can't tell me that if you can all play nice, because there are people out there who do not play nice.
That's true.
I mean, developers don't really care about your rural neighborhood. They want your land. So you have to protect yourself, and the only way to do it is code. I think this code is great. I think it needs a couple of parameters so that whatever board comes here, if we end up, I mean, if this board were replaced tomorrow by a couple of people from Heber who happen to live in a trailer in Stormhaven, they could completely change what we're doing with this background here, which would not be good for any of us. So I'm thinking it needs to be a little bit of a combination between,
So we need some more parameters.
we need some
Got it.
bones, yeah.
Okay, Mark?
I'm gonna go out on a limb, step
Again?
on some toes. And I've come to meetings for months, and we beat the horse to death every meeting, and we don't make any decisions.
No progress.
Nobody I shouldn't say nobody. People that are on the boards, I'm not seeing a lot of these show up to be discussed.
Kim's done one, Gary's done one, Brent's done
Okay,
one.
but why don't we talk about what's on here instead of
And add
beating the
to it.
horse? I just
I
bought myself
agree.
another month.
What you're saying is add the bonds.
Yeah, I mean, let's stay to the subject and not beat the horse anymore. It's dead.
It's been dead for a while.
Okay, so we agree, we have to have parameters. We agree,
what
this
are
is a
they?
good framework, we have to come up with parameters.
Great, what's a parameter? What can we live with? You got any?
I've had multiple discussions with John Blotter. I'm his next door neighbor. And he tells me every day, what I'm doing does not bother him. And I tell him, said, well, then why are we beating this up? Why? I got an email from him, 2 weeks ago, telling me what I'm doing is not a problem. I said, once again, why are we talking about this? I own a plumbing business in the valley, in the community. I do work for a lot of you guys sitting on the board. I've done work for tons of people in Daniel, John included.
That's right. It's always good to have a
So-
plumber.
Not just that, but what I'm doing, I say to John, I go, what am I doing that is so offensive? Is it my truck? What is it? Please tell me, and maybe I can change something. No comment. So where do we go from there? Because most of the vehicles I have are my personal vehicles, except for 2 that are my business, and they both have my logo on them. So how many is acceptable? I've done work for you. I mean, it's like I'm saying, what do we, how many is acceptable?
You owe me $30.
I know.
Me too.
I owe it to your wife.
Don't get that confused.
Exactly.
Remember, that's your wife's money, she told me.
Just before we end, I want to get back to this.
Okay.
One of the questions I had when we were reading through it, okay, now that we've beat the dead horse, there's a couple of references in here about the homeowner being the business operator. Are we going to require
Yes,
home ownership
Yes.
and not renters?
yes,
Yes.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
someone who rents a property
Can't run a business,
cannot be given a home occupation.
Correct.
correct,
Okay.
because they don't have the best interest in the town, they can move any day.
I agree with her, that's,
I just
I think I
clarified.
got that from
You,
her.
yeah, so that's in here, that's circled.
That's done intentionally then, you said that, because,
Yeah.
okay, well then, maybe we ought to put down one of the parameters is that in order to qualify for home.
It says that,
It says it
It's
right.
in here.
it's in there.
Where?
Homeowners living, number 1, under
Number 1,
application.
home occupation, where did you find it?
Right, number 1.
There you go. Home occupation being homeowners living on the premises.
Period.
So what we need to, so I
There's a
agree with
parameter.
Mark, we
We
need
found one.
parameter.
One parameter, you gotta live there.
So hours, what's
Yeah,
another
yeah.
parameter? If you had your neighbor running a business, what hours would be acceptable to you?
Yeah, that's what
So
we,
there's a
that's a
parameter.
parameter.
Put it out
There's
there.
another
So if you're in service, you're out, you can't limit your hours. Like, my husband's a plumber, he's gonna get called out
Well-
at midnight.
That's
But
correct.
we're talking
I
about,
mean-
that's one man, one truck
Right.
leaving. We're not talking
You're
about
talking
his
about-
employees
Okay.
show up.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What
Different.
she had neighbors that were starting a whole bunch of employees and 6 trucks in the morning at 6 a.m. That's
I know
what
that
she
doesn't
started.
apply.
Your
I
standard
was just
business
saying,
operating hours is 8 to
just be
5.
careful.
Okay, you're right.
But if you're coming
According
home
to
after you've done an
survey.
electrical job or a plumbing job, do you make it home by 5?
No, but that's one, but we're looking for a parameter here. So the business at the premises runs from 8 till 5.
Six or 7 in the morning till 6 at night. Because you gotta come and go.
I
You gotta,
like that.
you gotta have a little leeway.
That's just great.
Yeah.
So
I
you're
think
on
it's
a,
too early.
Because I moved sprinklers.
It's too early.
Well, then don't write it down. Hand me another paper that says shut up.
But when you're moving sprinklers, you're not out yelling at Bob, to make sure he gets the third wrench
Well, I'm
from the
cussing a
left.
lot.
Well, yeah, sprinklers. Oh,
Okay, we need to wrap this up, folks. We got a public hearing coming in right behind us, so we're ready to start that one. So let's work on some parameters.
Next meeting?
Down that line, yeah, we'll just keep on plugging at it.
When's the next meeting?
The next meeting, are we gonna talk about this in a council meeting?
As far as I'm concerned, we certainly can. We got 2 council members not here. I would think they would be here on the regular monthly meeting, so
Could I make an opinion there? I think when we combine with the council, we spend a lot more time getting back to square one, like those
Yeah.
TV shows that go back after the commercial and give you 15 minutes of what you just heard.